have today, guys, I've got one of our clients, dedicated inner worker by the name of Dan Liao. Now, Dan is a little bit of an enigma. He came to me as a client a little while back, probably a couple of years now, or over that. Super intense, high functioning guy. Yeah. Here he is. He's on the call. He's waiting. Super intense, high functioning guy. He's currently he works as a mortgage broker. He used to be a franchise owner of a bank. Sold out of that, and this guy has a purpose and a passion and a connection with a higher power, unlike many I've seen. He's incredibly successful in his life. He's got a life that most people would aspire to as the dream, and that's cool and that's awesome. However, he also has I just remember having an initial call with him, and he was just like, man, I just have this desire to impact people and help people and improve people's lives. And that was one of the reasons I took him on as a client, because I could see that spark inside of him and wanted to help him kind of bring that to the world. So keen to kind of unpack his story with us. Dan is currently on a dream holiday. I just had a chat with him in the break, and he's on a dream holiday in Japan at the moment. Normally resides here in Brizzy. And he just said, I'm sick of, he goes, you wouldn't believe it, man, but I've been following on Instagram, and it's like every single day he's eating at this Michelin star restaurant or this incredible ramen place that you've got to wait for 2 hours in line for, in some back alley, back street. He's like, man, I just can't wait to get home and just have chicken and, boy, it's strict chicken breast and white rice, I think he said, because he's just been indulging that much. Anyway, guys, absolute pleasure to bring to you Mr. Dan.
The greatest version of...
Hey guys, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you, mate?
I'm really good, man, really good. Thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure, a real privilege to be on here.
You're welcome, man. It's awesome. I know we've been talking about we've been talking about this for a while, about having a conversation or doing an interview. And I thought for us to be able to do it here live with all these people and then be able to use it after the fact as well. So, mate, I want to share with everyone a little bit about what life was like before doing your inner work. Can I tell them the story around how we met?
For sure, man. For sure.
Cool. So, I consider myself high functioning. I consider myself a bit of a high powered human. And I remember I was going to the gym one morning, and I got up early, maybe like 4:15 or 4:30, and I've gone to the gym, and it was like 4:45, and it's a nice quiet gym, and I walked in, and I thought I had the place to myself, and there's this guy down the end who was Dan, and basically Dan was there running his doing his workout. Guys, we've just got someone screen sharing. If you can fix that for me, that'd be fantastic. And Dan was doing his workout. And I remember being like, what the hell? And he was like finishing his workout, and it was like 4:45 a.m. And I was like, wow, this guy's a weapon. Maybe he's a shift worker or like something like that, because no one's here training like that. And then in coming weeks, we got talking, we were both training and whatever. And I was he told me he's this mortgage broker, and he does this work, and he really wants to help people. And he just had this intense energy, right? And this intense kind of vibe about it. And what I quickly began to realize is that, oh wow, this guy is a freak. He's up at 3 a.m. in the morning, coming to here, then he's going to work for 12 hours a day, getting these kick-ass results in his life. However, is that he was like a soldier in his head, forcing himself to go and achieve all these things, right? And Dan, I don't know if that's on the money or on the mark. I guess what I'd like to hear is, like, from the outside, you had this life that looked really good. It even impressed me. But I want to know, what was it like living in between your ears when we met?
Yeah. Yeah, when we met. Hey, so completely agree with you there. From the outside, 100%. If you were to not know me and you were to just see me, you would see me as someone that was extremely high performing, that had this this fire inside that just wanted to go, go, go.
Yeah.
And it is true. Like living between my ears at that time was insanity, right? And the easiest way I can put it was I was, 12 hours was a good day of work for me. Like 15 and pushing up to 17 hours was like, that level I would push my mind and body to. And I'd still train 7 days a week and I would still go to work 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
Between my head was chaos. I would wake up and I would literally look in the mirror and I would speak probably the foulest words you could ever imagine at myself to ensure I kept a certain level of motivation up.
Like
Yeah.
what would
So,
you, what would those, what were those?
oh, but I can speak. Are we allowed to swear on this? For sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'd pretty much wake up, look in the mirror, and be like, "Hey, man, if you can't do this today, you are a piece of shit. You must do this. Like, if you aren't far out, I can't even like thinking about it makes me uncomfortable these days. But I would pretty much along the lines of unless you are able to execute today, you are worthless. Everything that everyone has ever thought about you would be true, and that you would never be able to succeed at the level that you have wanted to or perceive yourself to be, right? So it was very much so a method of whipping myself into performance. Yeah. And that was from just pretty much how I've done it my entire life. I didn't know there was any better way to do it, bar the fact of take the whip out and whip until you are broken. And when you are broken, lay down for a second and remind yourself how much of a piece of shit you are and how much you need to be better, and then whip harder and then get back up again. So you get these like moments of like deep sadness and pain, but then a yearning to be better. And then the only way you know how to access that ability to reach that potential was to just whip and whip and whip. So in other words, you could imagine like my intensity came from two places, right? It came from the place of fear, scarcity, not being able to ever become what I said I would become. And it also came from a place of love where it was like, well, I have this ability to continuously grow. I've seen myself impact people in a positive way. I've seen people become very happy from my efforts and everything that I've ever done, right? So it's kind of like, well, I know I have a calling to this because when I fulfill that, it makes me feel whole. It gives me a feeling of clarity and love and like a deep sense of like just being. Yeah, it's very comfortable to me. But I didn't know how to get there unless I was to put myself into deep pain, unless I was to continuously just hurt myself mentally,
Yeah. So
physically too.
totally physically.
Right, like as in physically. When I say that, I don't mean like hurting myself, but as in I would train in the gym, I'd train my body, I'd push past the limits. Do you remember the conversation we had, Ant? I think you came in one morning and you're like, hey man, what's going on? I was, oh man, I think I just did like 210 kilo deadlift for like 8 reps. And you're like, man, it's really good. And I was like, yeah, man, but I'm supposed to do 13.
Yeah.
And then you looked at me and you're like, mate, you did 210 kilos for 8 reps and it's like 4:30 a.m. or something. And I am there whipping myself like, oh, how worthless am I? I'm supposed to hit 13 and I could only hit 8 and I've just worked 15 hours the day before and I'm about to hit another 15-hour sesh, right? To impact people, right? So you can imagine that compounded was
Like a
quite painful.
living hell. That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
Man,
for sure.
I had a head that was really similar. And you touch on a really interesting point, RE motivation, because there's nothing wrong with, when I say there's nothing wrong, there's a very good reason how we end up there. Yeah, like I see and I have full respect for people like David Goggins. And I don't know if you guys have seen David Goggins, like in the chat, tell me David Goggins is, or you've heard of him or you see his stuff. And it's a very similar mindset, right? It's you just need to suck it up, push harder, go further, don't be a pussy, whip my ass, basically. Yeah, is a lot of the mindset there. And while I certainly get the sentiment, I understand sometimes there is, you got to take action. Sometimes you do have to do that. Sometimes you do have to push through. But if I'm coming from a place of shame, which is what you're talking about, if I'm coming from a place of shame that as I am, I'm not enough, and I'm only going to be enough if I do this thing today, whether it be the gym workout, or make the money, or do the work, or whatever it might be, what you are guaranteed is it will never be enough, and you'll always need more, and you'll be left with this kind of hole inside where it's like you said, sometimes I'd impact people and feel good, and that felt purposeful because I know I'm here to help. But then a lot of the time there was a deep sadness. Yeah. Mate, can you tell us, well, this morning we've been talking a little bit about stories and experiences and where this stuff originates. Can you tell us where that came from? Where did that mindset come from?
Where'd that mindset come from?
Where did you beat yourself up? Were there experiences that you had in your life? Was there stuff that you were taught or that you had, like maybe as a kid or in your family or in your in your environment?
Where did that come? Sure.
Yeah.
Look, it's, I wouldn't say that it came from one particular place, right? It wasn't one event that occurred and that sparked this whole entire, self-whipping for the next 32 years or whatever, right? Like, what I believe if I've sat with it and I've really looked deep and I've really looked at understanding is that honestly, I believe it actually came from a place of fear from my parents as well as my surroundings when I was in a school environment, right? So my parents being, immigrants that came to this country, didn't know very much, and they were living in a place of fear. That my parents, just like myself, I worked 7 days a week, so on and so forth. I wasn't really raised by my parents. I was raised by every single other person in my family, bar my parents, right? Because my parents worked 7 days a week, and I would witness, some events in their life that really left a mark on me in relation to, you have to work hard. If you don't work hard, no one will be there for you. Everyone will eventually, they will either lie to you, cheat you, or or steal from you.
Yeah.
So, and I witnessed my parents going through that for majority of my life. Yeah. And that created a narrative to me that unless I work and create value in myself, example, value as in what my mother and father required value of was monetary value because we needed money to survive. Unless I acquired a high level of amount of this, I will never gain sufficient respect from other people within my family, but also people outside of my family, right?
Yeah.
And then also I was like severely overweight when I was a younger kid. So what played on my worthiness, or I believe that, you had to be really fit. You had to be this, you had to make a lot of money. You had to be really fit and you had to be really good looking for you to be able to gain any sort of respect and for you to actually be worthy.
Who relates to this, guys? Like, who relates to that? Hands up or post in the chat, because I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to, right? I have to be a different way. As I am, I'm not enough, so I need to be more, do more, have more. In Dan's case, he's saying I have to make a lot of money. I have to look a certain way. I have to be good looking. Yeah, right? So awesome. Sorry, mate. Keep going.
Yeah. So I guess like the stories were formed over time, right? And it's the experiences with people, but also when you have these type of this perception, it's exhausting because you gotta like keep doing it. And like the easiest way I can put it is by having this sort of way of living, it will then attract people with the kind of like the same way of living, right? So it like brings you into this whole group of people which were just all in pain. And that
also in pain.
100%, right? And then it's like, oh, well, if money is my highest value and looking good is my highest value, then guess what? You start hanging out with people that all they care about is making money and looking really good and not really caring about how they affect other people or what else is going on. They just really care about these two values, which to me I found is, what I have found is quite toxic and really, really quite a painful place to be. But yeah, I guess to answer your question in short, everything was created not from one circumstance, but multiple circumstances backed up by my mind saying, well, see, this is now evidence. This is how you're supposed to live. This is how you're supposed to live. This is how you're supposed to live, until it got to a point where I literally cracked open and broke down. And somehow I met this like massive guy in the gym at 4:45 in the morning that somehow showed me a better way.
Awesome. So mate, thank you for sharing. And I can see a lot of people, the chat just went mad when I asked that about how who related. So you've got this realization, you know, I'm chasing these kind of goals in my head, like hectically chasing them. And not everyone, by the way, a lot of people on the call might have those desires, but they don't find themselves operating at a high level. You're just whipping yourself to force yourself to do it. Other people are whipping themselves because they're not doing it. But I want everyone to understand the same thing. Yeah, it's the same mechanism inside.
Sure.
What are some of the things, and I've never asked you this, but what are some of the things, so we started working together, you started doing the program. What are some of the things that helped? You know, I've got this crazy head, I'm constantly beating myself up, I need to whip myself to get out of bed, I'm never actually reaching enough. What started to change as you began to do your inner work?
Okay. So I guess things that were very foreign to me at that time was you could gain motivation or reach a specific goal by actually being kind to yourself. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely crazy, right? Like I say it out loud now and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I used to think that. But I sit with myself and I go, well, mate, I've done 30 years of where I have been awarded, where I have made sufficient, like I have like done a lot of things that a lot of people haven't been able to do for their parents. I've gone and traveled all these places and all these things. I've gotten straight up results from being this, like whipping myself. How can I gain results from actually being kind to myself?
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest thing. The other thing that I had was because I had a very loud mind, right? My mind would whip myself. So when I say a loud mind, I mean, when I would wake up, my thoughts would run continuously. It would move very, very quickly. I'd say, this is what I'm doing. This is this, whip, 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 whip. So I was very, I knew myself, like I could hear myself.
Yeah.
So the other thing that inner work really brought to me was understanding the separation of the mind, the consciousness, and the body. That to me, this method of separating these three was the absolute game changer for me in that instance, because I went, holy shit, if you're telling me that my mind is not me and my body is a separate entity and I'm the consciousness, I go, well, how do I understand that? Well, I understand it because every time I whip myself, there's a little boy in the background or a hurt self of me that's going, fuck, this sucks. This really, really sucks, man. Like, how do I do this another day? Can I do this another day? And it's like, just do one more minute, just do one more minute. Like, just keep going, just keep going. So I guess the concepts which really, really helped me was, one, being kind to myself, but two, understanding that there is a separation. I am not my mind. Like my thoughts and how I run doesn't mean I actually have to act on them. It doesn't mean that is actually me. They are just thoughts. It's a tool. My mind is like an iPhone, which I look at. And if I don't like what I'm seeing on my iPhone, I put it down, right? Like it's done, right? And gaining the concept that I could actually do that with my mind actually has made me a lot happier because my mind's like, it was a crazy place at the beginning.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so really big go through there because that was something for myself, believing that the only way to motivate myself was to whip myself or beat myself up, and loving myself or being kind to myself. There's no way that could actually work as motivation. Yeah. And then also being able to separate the stories and the experiences from the reality. Like we did that before on the call with James, guys. So have these stories and experiences that he's been running his whole life, when in fact, actually, they were just made up. And Dan had made up this story that I have to whip myself and smash myself, and life is a struggle. Yeah, which is often feeling exhausted and in pain. So you began doing that, and what are some of the things that started to change in your life? Like what were the results of starting to be kind to myself and
Yeah, for sure, man. So the question you just asked brought this memory up, right? Where I remember when we first spoke and you said to me, like, I was like, oh, mate, I want to become better. Like, the reason why I came to see you was like, I need to become better. I need to understand how to become better. Like, there's this little bit of it. There's like a thing inside me, which I just don't quite understand.
Yeah.
And I need it to connect. Like, I need the connecting webs, right? So, and I remember a conversation where you're like, because I remember saying, I don't know how to become better. I don't know how to produce more because I'm capped. I'm working 100 hours a week now, man. Yeah. And I am whipping myself to death. Like, how do I become better? Yeah. And then your reply or response to me was like, I reckon we can get you to do better by actually working less. And my mind at that time was like, man, if you can do that, like, prove that to me and I will be a forever, like, I will preach the shit out of Awaken Lifestyles if you can do that for me, right? Because I was in this intense level of pain. Lo and behold, like, what happened was being kinder to yourself and understanding, like, using the tools and the support that Awaken Lifestyles provided me. I am now working I would say like 40 hours a week, which to me is part-time, right? Like, I genuinely say 40 hours a week, that's part-time work. I have so much spare time now, right? Yeah. But sometimes I'll do like 30 hours or something like that. But the difference between my work life is that I'm actually producing far more results. I'm actually up 83% from last year. And from the year before that, I'm up even more and I'm working less. Right. What my health is like mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually has like, I don't even know, 2-3 times up, like 200-300% better. Like, I communicate with my parents better. I communicate with my friends better. I communicate with myself better because of the kindness I show myself. It's easier for me to eat healthier. It's easier for me to train. Like, I still train 7 days a week, guys. I haven't been during this holiday, but I just genuinely enjoy it. I don't do it from a place of fear now. I do it from a place of love. Like, I genuinely wake up and I go, holy shit, man, I cannot wait for today to start. Whereas before I'd be like, oh man, fuck, I got to get up again. I got to do this again. How am I going to get through today? And now days roll and they move and they flow, right? Whereas before it was like an uphill battle. Like, I was going to war on a daily basis. And now I just flow with it. Yeah. And the blessings keep coming and they come way quicker. And I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? This is everything is like literally working out the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. So I guess that's pretty much what's changed in my life is that I was a high performing person that was in this immense level of pain, and I got there by whipping myself. And now I am an even higher performing person, which is gaining better, yielding way better results by working less and being more with myself. Like, I can comfortably sit with myself and I enjoy it. Whereas, sorry, going back on another point, I actually couldn't sit with myself when we first met, and like, being with myself was severely uncomfortable because when I was with myself, my mind was like telling me all these stories. It was a story after a story after a story. So I had to always be with someone. And I always had to sit with someone. I had to talk with someone. I had to go out. I had to be in places of sound, noise, stimulation. I couldn't just sit still. And now I cannot fucking wait to sit still. I'm like, get me away from all of that and let me be with me. And it's the craziest thing because if you were to say to me, hey man, it's really comfortable to be able to sit with yourself one day, I would say to yourself, man, you don't know what's going on in my mind. Like sitting with myself is crazy. It's like the scariest thing I could ever imagine. Um, which, guys, like, I don't know if we have enough time, but it also led me into, you know, drinking substantial amounts of alcohol and so on and so forth, which was very detrimental to me. Like ever since I have pretty much been with Anthony and spoken with Anthony, I haven't I don't I haven't drank any alcohol because I actually enjoy being present
Yeah.
more than I enjoy um displacing myself. I don't need to displace myself because understanding that my current reality is better than any reality of displacement I could ever have. Right.
Yeah,
And this includes, yeah,
totally.
sorry, go.
It's like it's funny I say that a lot. Like, and this isn't necessarily just the alcohol, but sitting with self. It's like if I can't sit with myself, then obviously I'm not liking my experience of myself. And so if I don't like the experience of myself, I'm going to look for ways to change that. And one of them is alcohol. People do that with alcohol. Some people with drugs. Some people do it with work. Some people do it with shopping or being a really good partner or friend, or, you know, like we heard before, the people pleasing and stuff like that. Self-opinion, essentially. And the one thing that I see that's just really fantastic, which you just named, Dan, is when I actually begin to like myself and treat myself like I'm valuable. I like sitting with myself, and that's now comfortable. And so I then choose to do everything from a different place. Like you said, I now eat really well, and it's not hard, you know. And I exercise because I love my body and I love myself. I'm now going on long overseas trips and holidays when there's no way I would allow myself to do that because I had to be in the office. Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
You know, and I love the fact we had the stats. Like, I'm 83% up. Of course you do. My business is 80% up, and I'm working more than half the time. Like
For
that,
sure.
like game changer. Right? Even you guys, if you even consider, like people on the call, if you considered you got even half of that, if you got 40% better result in even, you know, let's say 40% less effort or less work, like what does that work to you? Like actually, in whatever area of your life you're looking for, 40% better result in 30%. Dan's got double that, but let's just, you know, he's a high achiever. He's an A+ student. Let's say he got half of that. Like, holy shit. Just imagine what that is worth. Dan, I want to touch on one or two more things, man.
Mhm.
You mentioned earlier that you had toxic people in your life and toxic friends and friendship circles and stuff like that. How has that changed now? What are you experiencing instead? I know you're in, you know, a new relationship. You know, how's that?
Yeah, yeah. So, how has that changed? Well, I don't have toxic people in my life anymore. That's one thing. I
Yeah.
have an amazing partner. She's the best ever. She's just right there, even though, you know, I'm not just saying it. But what has changed is like, so I just don't have those type of people in my life anymore because the fact is, I had those people in my life to fill a void in which I thought I needed to fill by needing other people. Like, it's like I was in pain. So it's almost like I accidentally or somehow seeked other people that were similar in pain. And I kind of hung around that, right?
Yeah.
But the weird thing was, can I just say here, is like I hung around people that were in pain, and then there was a voice or a thing right inside of me that went, "This isn't right. Like, this doesn't feel right, man. Like, why are we here right now?" But
Yeah.
then my mind would be like, "Well, man, where else are we gonna go? Who else is there gonna be? How else are you gonna how are we gonna fit in, or how are we gonna have friends? Like, isn't this what high performers do? We do this and we do that, then we go over here, then we spend this much money, then we drink this much alcohol, and then we blah 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 blah, et cetera, right? Like, it was not a good place to be. But I've since going through awakened lifestyles, because I actually love myself and I actually care for myself and I actually don't want to cross my own boundaries and I want to live within my values, these people I just let go. They hold no weight on me. They mean, not that they're not valuable people in their own right. It's just that we're on different paths and we're different, and that's okay, right? And I accept them for who they are, and I need to accept myself for who I am. And who I am is not that. Like I genuinely really enjoy, you know, now these days, honoring my parents, like being with my parents and, you know, helping them do things, being with my partner, being with myself, spending time with myself is the biggest thing ever. Like it's, I no longer need to hang out with people I don't agree with because I would rather hang out with myself.
Beautiful.
It's the best.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Dan's being very humble there. Dan's being very, very humble there. Like if you've ever had a dream where you want to somehow repay your parents, you know, and do something for them and help them live a life that, you know, they could never imagine of. Like if whatever comes up for you there, you can probably bet Dan's probably done that times 10 for his own parents and his own family. And then the feeling that he gets as a result of being able to do that, which is really, yeah, incredible, man, and a real credit to you, because that's tried the whole time. Knowing you just said it, like I know this isn't right. I know these people I'm hanging around time I'm spent isn't right. And when I can actually do the work to get through the other side, oh, that's right. I want to be here. I want to make sure my family has a great life. I want to make sure that I'm with people that I'm connected with. Awesome, man. So, what's it like living
What's it like living in my head?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's way better. It's way better, guys. Like living in my head now is, look, guys, please don't get me wrong, right? I didn't spend 12 months with Awaken Lifestyles and Anthony, and all of a sudden in my mind is like this fairy tale rainbow unicorn land where, you know, leprechauns are throwing gold at my body. And I'm like, yes, you know, it's not about that. But what it is that it's a lot more peaceful. It's a lot more quiet. It's like it flows. No unicorn, sorry. You can though. It's a lot more quiet. It's like, how can I explain it? If you could imagine before my mind was like literally a war, like just running into walls, like punching into walls and just things exploding and things just aren't flowing. It's almost like now it's an ocean which is calm and it holds still. And every so often there's a wave that flows upwards, but then I can look at that wave and be like, oh, that's a wave. And then it flows away. And that's the easiest way I can put it, because to me, my mind now is very calm, but it has the ability and the tendency to be able to react extremely high because it's used to that. It's used to being this really, you know, aggravated or like very punchy type thing, like high energy, very frantic type energy. But now it's calm because I choose for it to be calm. I choose for it to calm down. I choose for it to be quiet, to be still. And then I also value stillness, right? Yeah.
Thank you, man. That's a really cool way to explain it. And you were at war. You honestly, you looked like a soldier. Just being this guy is like living in a war zone in his head is the best way I can describe it. And now you are. Now I know you've come here and done, you know, group stuff. You've gone through the academy, and all the girls in the room are like, "Oh my god, I just want some of Dave's energy." Yeah, he's infectious and he's calm and he's at peace and he's, you know, he's still an intense guy. There's no doubt about it. But
for sure,
it's pleasant energy going on. Whereas before, it was like an extreme, agitated energy. If I'm really honest. Mate, last question. I know there's people I've seen in the chat, and I know there's people that hear this, have heard this, and they're like, okay, I know I'm meant for more too. I know I'm meant to do more. Maybe I'm not such a super high achiever as Dan, or maybe I am, but you know, but I want to do this work, right? But I'm a little bit scared about putting myself out there, who I'm going to be or what I'm going to become. Like if there's someone sitting there who's going, okay, I know I need to do this work on myself. I know it's time to do some inner work. What would your advice be for them?
Oh man, look, obviously I would definitely recommend doing this work, guys.
Thanks.
What like look, what brought me to this work was because I had high levels of pain, right? And when I say high levels of pain, guys, I'm not talking about things in my life were like falling apart. I was talking about me working my ass off to get to a certain point where it was just hard to maintain. Like I just was in war and in pain for so long. The reason why I did this work was because I wanted to be out of pain. I didn't want to feel this anymore, right? And that's what got me to do the work. But what I'm saying, like, if you guys are high performance as well, and look, whoever you are,
yeah,
committing to doing this is genuinely going to change your life, because it doesn't stop you, but what it does, it allows you to look at yourself and understand yourself. And understanding yourself is probably the most important thing that I discovered, is that if you can understand yourself and you can be at peace with yourself, everyone else in the outside world doesn't seem that much more complicated. And if they are, you're just like, well, that's them, right? If you want to live peacefully, if you want to understand who you are, if you want to find freedom through your fears, doing this work will do that for you. And I was thinking to myself when about this, it's kind of like, in my life, the things that I have never regretted were the things that I actually did for myself out of love, right?
Wow.
It was, and this is one of them. This is one of the things that, although it was like a roller coaster ride in my mind before, right? Like I had to unwind 30 plus years of specific ways of thinking, specific stories, specific narratives, like exactly like everything my parents told me, I had to question, I had to get curious about. Everything I ever perceived as this is what it was, I had to then question, and then I had to understand at a deeper level, like, is this what it was, right? And that has now leveled me up and brought me to a place where I can look at things as they are, not what I thought they were. I don't have to put a label on them. I can just see them for what they are, right? So I've relinquished myself of stories. So, sorry, I know this is going on a little bit because I just really want people to understand the depth and the level of what this actually can bring into your life. It's not about, oh man, I want to make more money, so I'm going to do Awaken Lifestyles. I want to become like, go 7 days in the gym and it will be super easy, so I'm going to go over here. Like, honestly, what this is about is like, if you want true inner peace, if you want to wake up and be like, holy shit, I fucking love my life, no matter what happens, and have that energy just push out and exude out of you naturally, this is something you want to jump onto. Awesome. It's not going to be easy at the beginning, but I can promise you every single step of the way, like, it's going to be worth it in the end. You're going to be the happiest person ever.
Thank you so much, Dan. Yeah. It's so nice to hear from
you.
No problem. And I mean, who in the chat wants a little bit of Dan Liao energy? Who in the chat relates to what he's sharing? Who in the chat can feel some of that stuff that he's talking about? Yeah. Awesome. So there's a lot of love. Cool, guys. There's a lot of love there. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time and the effort out of your holiday. I really appreciate that, man. You go get back to your epic feasting, and we'll see you on the other side when you're back across Oz shortly. Awesome. Guys, can we give a hand of applause in the chat and a thank you?
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are gonna have the best time ever in the next, I'm jealous that I'm like, I can't be a part of this. Genuinely. Like, it's gonna be a game changer for you guys. Love to hear more about it. Anyway, take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan. See you, mate.